Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for being here today. We've had some great talks so far, and we're hoping that our talk is also a great contribution. So today we wanted to talk about towards inclusive learning environments using Cogniti to design for diversity. Our focus here is going to be thinking about how we can use the Socratic method in our Cogniti bot that we've created to help people think about how they can design for diversity in their contexts. We would also like to acknowledge the Gadigal people, the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. And I think that's always important to keep in the front of our minds wherever we are in Australia. So why design for diversity? I'm sure I'm speaking to the converted, but I think it's really important to think about how exclusive tertiary institutions are. Coming from a history of exclusion, I saw someone posted in the questions that AI only generates white male lecturers. I think that's a pretty good example of the exclusive environment that the history of the university is speaking to. So thinking about how to become more inclusive is always important. And I think even more so as we have diverse communities in our tertiary institutions. So moving away from this exclusive environment and becoming more inclusive involves thinking about how can we create learning environments for all learners. And a really big part of that is thinking about flexible pathways. How can we create environments that allow students to interact with the environment in the way that they need, and to think about how we can have multiple representations of content, multiple ways to actively engage with content, and multiple ways to demonstrate their learning. And these just are some of the key readings that are coming out from the Australian sector thinking about why design for diversity.
So with designing for diversity in mind, at Sydney Uni, we have access to a tool that's been developed in-house. It's called Cogniti. And using Cogniti, what we've developed is an agent that will work with our teachers at the university to help them think about how they can take their approach that perhaps speaks to the middle of their audience and then widen out their teaching practices to be more inclusive. And so we're using our designing for diversity steps to underpin the way this agent operates. So the focus in the conversation is initially thinking about who learners are and what your goal is with those learners and what barriers might exist for learners in your learning environment, and eventually get to thinking about solutions. So this is a Socratic agent, as Ella mentioned. It's an agent that's going to have a conversation with you. It's not necessarily a quick fix. But the nice thing about it is it's starting that thinking shift around how do I adjust my teaching for the diversity of my cohort rather than just do my same old down the middle. Let's keep going.
So a key aspect of this is thinking about things that you can shape in your learning environment. So rather than seeing the problem as with the student, it's about thinking about the environment that you're interacting with and how you can shape that with diversity and inclusion in mind. I think all learning environments are co-created by its participants. So that's you as the educator, you as part of the learning team, and the students as well. And they're comprised of core elements, so physical, practical, and social. And it might be in this list or it might extend beyond this list, but thinking about all of these different elements and I guess the way in which you are setting up students for success in these learning environments.
So when we set out to prompt our agent to behave in the way that we wanted it to, we recognized that we needed to perhaps have different pathways for the outcome of the conversation. One pathway might be to get a quick fix. I have a lecture theatre tomorrow full of students who don't seem very engaged, and I'd really like to think about how I can address this challenge. Or perhaps take a pathway that is a deeper dive to perhaps resolving more broad or more holistic challenges. So this agent asks you a question about which pathway you want to follow, and then begins that conversation to unpack who your learners are and what sort of goals you have in terms of your teaching challenge and what sort of barriers your students might be encountering.
So today we've got 3 pre-recorded options that we can have a look at. So one is a writing studies tutor with the key challenge being participation. The second option being history lecturer, key challenge lecture attendance. And the third option being an engineering interdisciplinary unit coordinator, key challenge group work collaboration. So just a quick show of hands in the room, who would most like to see option 1? So case study 1. Any takers? All right, case study 2. Okay, and case study 3? Okay.
Well, let's see if we can try and get 2 in.
All right, well, we'll
See
start
how we
with
go with time.
We'll start with the history lecturer. I will say I was doing the prompting for this and it was the 3rd one that I did. So I am a little bit terse in the way that I'm doing it. So
Just slide that down.
yeah.
Pick up the black banner.
Yeah. So I'm trying to click it without
That.
Oh no, I forget that Macs and PCs do not work the same ways. God. All right. Oh,
Yes, present time.
no, that's not the right one.
Hold on.
Yeah. Fun. Copy link. Got the right link? Yeah. Technology, right? I think it'll make our lives easier and then somehow it's so much harder.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Thankfully, we have Sam.
Yeah.
I don't know how good I'm gonna be.
Can you just open link?
Yes.
Open it.
Yeah. Right. There we go. All right. Sorry. I only have time one now.
It was interesting when we started creating this community agent. We created lots of agents. This agent kind of evolved fairly quickly. We did a lot of prompting and then went, whoa, we need to be tighter. We need to be more structured in what we're asking it to do.
All right. So as you can see, it offers you those 2 options at the start there. There's no sound to this, so if you can't hear anything, that's correct. Basically, I've selected option 2 here. So I said that I wanted a quick fix. It asks me who my learners are. Then it jumps into asking me a little bit more about some of the challenges that I'm having. I actually based this on a unit that I took as an undergrad, which was the history of violence in Italy. Did not have problems with participation. It's a great title. But it's interesting to see kind of like what it ends up giving you. As I said, I was a little bit terse in my instructions here.
Well, I think that's an interesting observation. You don't have to be polite. It's one person at the other end.
Yeah.
I'm usually down the line.
So you can see it will try and coax me away from that kind of thinking. Says no, let's try and think of this from a different way. You can see I can't spell.
Interesting. It doesn't really matter about your spelling
Yeah,
too
you can.
much.
And it will give you lots of different suggestions for engaging. A lot of these maybe you've heard of before, but it might just be a good jogging of the memory if you're kind of stuck with time and you just want something that's going to work. And then I'm like, no, that's not going to work. Give me a better answer, Cogniti, come on. Gives you more answers. Then I start to get, okay, I need more. But you can see it is constantly trying to take us back to thinking about the diverse cohort, how you can actually make it engaging for everybody. It will give you a bit more suggestions if you keep asking it to give you more suggestions as well. I think at the end here, I even ask it to give me a lecture outline, and then I ask it to customize that for my topic, which is the last 300 years of violence in Italy. And it will also give you that as well. Obviously, don't take this and go and like try and teach the course from it, but it's like a good starting point if you're kind of stumped at how to actually incorporate these into your lecture, or how you might actually build them into the topics that you're already exploring. It would be a good way to like begin that thought process. It's really not the end result.
And if you're early in your teaching career, I think it's a good way to give you a bit of a boost. So like, yeah, I'm heading in the right track. It's okay.
Yeah, and so the other example that I have, which I don't think we're going to have time to look through today, is a tutor example. So it's great for tutors as well, who might need like quick answers for small classroom teaching where they don't have a lot of control over the larger design for the course. It's also really useful for learning designers if you're thinking through what suggestions or ideas you might propose to academics in terms of like if an academic comes to you and says, I'm struggling with group work, this is a good way to generate some ideas that you might then be able to discuss with them too. It does have suggestions on how to make Canvas sites and things like that more accessible as well. And Korea's been working with Cogniti a lot on rubrics and making those more accessible too. So it will actually work for you.
And so to give you some insights into what's happening in the background in Cogniti, Cogniti is using ChatGPT 4. And the nice thing about Cogniti for us at Sydney Uni is that it's a little bit like being in an inner circle, a fence around it. What we're putting into Cogniti is staying within the universe. So we're playing with ChatGPT 4, but we're not sending out into wilderness out there our input. And as Ella has mentioned, we have built a range of agents that are designed to support academics to do some of the things that take a lot of time and perhaps just don't get done because they're so cognitively challenging. Things like preparing some draft rubrics, taking your learning outcomes, turning them into assessment criteria, and then scoping them up in terms of what does that mean.
Yeah. Sorry, I think
Yes.
we're running out of time. Sorry to interrupt you, Korea. So I think we'll have to stop there because we're running short of time, and everyone else has run so brilliantly the time. I don't want to be the one that goes over. So again, I'm Ella, and this is Kriya. Come chat to us more if you would like. And I hope you enjoy the rest of today's conference. Thank you.
Ahead of time.